The door slammed. Daniel spun around as the security lights flooded the corridor, white and unforgiving. His heart hammered so loudly he was sure someone else could hear it. The envelope slipped from his fingers and hit the floor. Papers spilled out, skidding across the tiles. "Daniel!" a voice shouted from behind. "Stop right there!" He froze. For one long second, everything went silent except his breathing. Fast, ragged. He stared at the open exit just a few steps away. If he ran now, he might still make it. If he stayed... "Daniel," the voice said again, closer this time. "What are you doing here?" He swallowed, closed his eyes, and let the moment pass. 3 weeks earlier, his life had been painfully ordinary. Every morning, Daniel woke before sunrise to the sound of his phone alarm and the distant hum of generators outside his apartment. He dressed quietly so he wouldn't wake his wife, Miriam, or their 6-year-old son, Joshua. By 6:30 a.m., he was already on the bus, pressed between strangers, replaying numbers in his head and wondering how far his salary would stretch this month. "You didn't eat again," Miriam said one morning as he reached for his keys. "I'll eat later," Daniel replied, forcing a smile. "You always say that." He paused at the door. "I'll be fine." But he wasn't. At work, Daniel was known as dependable. Not brilliant, not flashy, just steady. The kind of man managers trusted with sensitive files because he never asked questions. That was why his supervisor, Mr. Collins, often called him into the office. "Daniel, close the door," Collins said one afternoon. Daniel did as he was told. "I need you to stay late tonight. Audit review." Daniel hesitated. "I promised my wife." "This is important," Collins cut in, "and you're the only one I trust." Those words warmed him more than they should have. That night, as Daniel returned home late, he found Miriam sitting on the edge of the bed, hospital forms spread before her. "The doctor called," he said quietly. His stomach dropped. "About Joshua?" She nodded. "They want more tests. It's not urgent, but it's not cheap either." Daniel sat beside her, staring at the papers. The numbers blurred. "We'll figure it out," he said, though he had no idea how. Days passed and the pressure grew heavier. Bills piled up, calls from unknown numbers became frequent. Daniel started avoiding his phone. Then the opportunity appeared. It was small, almost invisible. One evening, while filing documents after hours, Daniel noticed an envelope tucked into the wrong folder. It wasn't sealed. Inside were transaction records, amounts that didn't match the official logs. He frowned and flipped through them. "Still here?" Colin's voice came from the doorway. Daniel jumped. "Yes, sir. I was just..." Colin stepped in, glanced at the papers in Daniel's hand, and smiled slowly. "Ah, you found those." "Sir, I think there's a mistake," Daniel said carefully. Collins leaned against the desk. "No mistake, just flexibility." Daniel's chest tightened. "I don't understand." Collins lowered his voice. "Daniel, you're a good man, loyal, hard-working, and underpaid." Daniel said nothing. "There's a way to help yourself, just once. No one gets hurt." Daniel shook his head. "I can't." Collins sighed. "Think about your family. Think about those hospital bills." That night, Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Miriam slept beside him, one hand resting protectively over Joshua's empty pillow. "It's just once," he told himself. "Just this once." The decision didn't happen all at once. It crept in quietly. 2 days later, Daniel stayed late again. The office was empty. The air felt heavy. His hands trembled as he logged into the system. "No one will know," he whispered. He made the transfer. The relief was instant and terrifying. When the money hit his account, he stared at his phone in disbelief. His breath caught. "Miriam," he said later that night, trying to sound normal, "we can do the tests." She looked up, surprised. "How?" "I got a bonus," he lied. She smiled, and the guilt punched him in the chest. At first, nothing happened. No calls, no alarms, no consequences. Daniel relaxed. Too much. He started sleeping again, laughing again. He told himself it was over. Then Collins called him into the office. "You did well," Collins said, closing the door. Daniel's heart sank. I told you it was just once. Collins chuckled. That's what everyone says the first time. I'm done, Daniel said firmly. Collins' smile faded. Are you? Daniel stood. Yes. Collins leaned forward. Then explain why the audit team arrives next week. Daniel froze. What? You think they won't notice? Collins said calmly. You're already involved. If this goes wrong, it won't be me they question, it'll be you. Fear wrapped around Daniel's throat. You wouldn't, Daniel whispered. Collins shrugged. You made your decision. From that day, the ground beneath Daniel's feet began to crack. At home, Miriam noticed the change. You're distracted, she said one night. What's going on? Nothing, Daniel snapped, then immediately softened his tone. I'm tired. At work, emails started disappearing. Files were altered. Collins gave instructions that made Daniel's skin crawl. Just sign it, Collins said one evening. This isn't right. Neither was the first transfer, Collins said flatly. The pressure mounted. Daniel's chest ached constantly. His phone buzzed with messages from Collins at odd hours. Don't forget who holds the strings. Then the audit notice arrived. Daniel read it 3 times, his hands shaking. That night, he sat alone in the dark, staring at the laptop on the table. He knew what he had to do. The envelope, the records, the truth. Just one more decision, he told himself. And that was how he found himself in the office corridor, lights blazing, papers scattered at his feet, with a voice calling his name and no way back. The door was still open, but the moment was gone. Daniel, the security officer said, stepping closer, you need to explain why you're here after hours. Daniel bent slowly and gathered the papers, his fingers numb. I forgot something. The officer frowned. Those look like internal records. They are, Daniel said, his voice barely steady. And they're wrong. The officer hesitated, then spoke into his radio. Sir, I need Mr. Collins down here. The name hit Daniel like a blow. Minutes later, Collins appeared at the end of the corridor, calm as ever, jacket neatly buttoned, expression almost amused. What's going on? Collins asked. Daniel looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time understood how small the man was behind the confidence. He's stealing, Daniel said suddenly. The word surprised even him. Collins laughed. That's a serious accusation? These records, Daniel said, holding them up, they show transfers you authorized. Funds moved into shell accounts. Not mine. Yours. The corridor felt too tight. The security officer shifted uneasily. Daniel, Collins said softly, be careful. No, Daniel replied, his voice rising. I've been careful for weeks. Careful while you pushed me deeper. Careful while you threatened me. That's enough, the officer said. Both of you come with me. The next hours blurred together. Questions, statements, cold rooms, bright lights. Daniel told everything. The first transfer, the pressure, the messages. His voice cracked when he spoke about Joshua's hospital bills. I made a choice, Daniel said, staring at the table, and it was wrong, but I won't let him destroy anyone else. Collins said little. He didn't need to. His lawyer did the talking. By morning, Daniel was allowed to go home. Collins was not. When Daniel stepped into his apartment, the sun was already up. Miriam sat on the couch, eyes red, phone clenched in her hand. They called me, she said quietly. From your office. Daniel swallowed. I can explain. She stood. Then explain. He did. Everything. No excuses, no softening the truth. When he finished, the silence between them was unbearable. You lied to me, Miriam said finally. I know. You risked everything. I know. She turned away, pressing her face to her hands. I trusted you. Those words hurt more than any accusation. For days, Miriam barely spoke to him. Joshua sensed the tension and grew quiet. Daniel slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling again, this time without excuses. The investigation moved quickly. Daniel lost his job. His name appeared in whispers at church, at bus stops, in places where people lowered their voices when he passed. One afternoon, a letter arrived. Miriam read it first. "They're charging you," she said. Daniel nodded. "I expected that." "What happens now?" "I cooperate. I face it." She studied him for a long moment. "And after?" "I don't know," he said honestly. Court was nothing like Daniel imagined. There were no dramatic speeches, just facts, records, choices laid bare. When Daniel took the stand, he didn't defend himself. "I made a decision I thought would save my family. Instead, it nearly destroyed them." The judge listened without expression. In the end, Daniel avoided prison, probation, community service, a permanent mark on his record. Collins received far worse. When it was over, Daniel stepped outside the courthouse and breathed in deeply. The air felt heavier, but clearer. Life afterward was smaller. No more office, no more titles. Daniel took odd jobs, delivery work, manual labor, anything honest. Some nights, exhaustion knocked him out before regret could speak. Other nights, regret shouted. Miriam slowly let him back in. Not fully, not easily. One evening, as Daniel washed dishes, Miriam stood beside him. "Joshua's tests came back," she said. Daniel's heart raced. "And? He'll be okay." Daniel closed his eyes, gripping the sink. "Thank God." Miriam watched him. "You didn't say that much before." "I should have." Weeks later, Daniel was asked to speak at a small youth program, court-mandated community service. He almost said no, but when he stood in front of the group and told his story, something shifted. "One decision," he said, "can feel small in the moment, but it doesn't stay small." The room was quiet. Afterwards, a young man approached him. "Thank you," he said. "I needed that." Daniel walked home lighter than he had in months. Still, the consequences lingered. Old friends avoided him. Opportunities disappeared when background checks came back. One afternoon, Daniel ran into Collins's former assistant at a grocery store. "I heard what you did," she said cautiously. Daniel braced. "You told the truth," she continued. "Not many would." Daniel nodded. "I wish I'd done it sooner." That night, Miriam sat beside him on the couch. "I won't pretend everything is fixed, but I see you trying." "I'll keep trying," Daniel replied. She reached for his hand. For the first time since everything fell apart, Daniel felt something like hope. Not relief, not victory, just hope. And it was enough to keep going. But the story wasn't finished yet, because some decisions echo longer than others, and Daniel was about to learn that redemption too comes with a cost. The call came on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Daniel was stacking boxes at a small warehouse when his phone vibrated in his pocket. He almost ignored it. Unknown number. He wiped his hands on his trousers and answered anyway. "Mr. Daniel Okoye?" the voice asked. "Yes." "This is Mrs. Grant from the Financial Ethics Board. We've been reviewing cases connected to the Collins investigation." Daniel's stomach tightened. "Okay." "There's something you should know," she continued. "Your cooperation helped uncover additional accounts. Because of that, some charges were reduced for others." Daniel said nothing. "There's also an opportunity," she added. "A temporary position, not glamorous, not permanent, but honest work, teaching compliance basics to small firms." Daniel closed his eyes. "Why me?" "Because you know what one bad decision costs," she said simply. That evening he told Miriam. She listened quietly, arms folded. "Do you want it?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "I do." She nodded. "Then take it." The first session was awkward. The room was half empty. A few business owners sat with crossed arms, clearly uninterested. Daniel stood at the front, hands sweating. "I'm not here because I'm perfect," he said. "I'm here because I failed." That got their attention. He spoke plainly, no speeches, no excuses, just choices and consequences. After the session, one man stayed behind. "I was about to do something stupid," the man said. "I thought it was harmless." Daniel met his eyes. That's how it always starts. The work didn't pay much, but it paid honestly. Daniel came home tired but lighter. He slept better. He laughed more with Joshua. He prayed again, not in desperation, but in gratitude. Still, the past wasn't done with him. One evening, as Daniel walked home, a familiar car slowed beside him. The window rolled down. It was Colin's. Thinner, older, angrier. "So this is you now, teaching morality." Daniel stopped walking. "What do you want?" Colin sneered. "You ruined my life." Daniel shook his head. "You ruined your own." Colin's jaw tightened. "You think you're redeemed?" Daniel looked at him steadily. "No, I think I'm responsible." For a moment, Collins looked like he might say more, then he drove off. Daniel stood there, heart racing, but calm. When he got home, Miriam noticed his expression. "What happened?" "I saw him," Daniel said. She reached for his hand. And I didn't feel afraid. Months passed. Life didn't magically improve. Money was still tight. Some doors remained closed, but peace settled in places fear used to live. One Sunday afternoon, Daniel and Miriam sat watching Joshua draw on the floor. "Do you ever wish you could undo it?" Miriam asked quietly. Daniel thought for a long moment. "I wish I had chosen differently, but undo it?" He shook his head. "If I hadn't fallen, I wouldn't have learned how to stand." She leaned her head on his shoulder. A year later, Daniel was offered a permanent role, modest salary, clean record, a second chance not handed but earned. On his first day, he stood outside the building, hand on the door handle, breathing deeply. This time, there was no envelope, no secret, no shortcut, just a choice. He walked in. That night, as he tucked Joshua into bed, his son looked up at him. "Daddy," Joshua said, "my teacher said choices are like roads." Daniel smiled. "She's right." "Some are scary," Joshua added. "Yes," Daniel said softly, "but the right ones are worth it." Later, when the house was quiet, Daniel sat alone and reflected on how close he'd come to losing everything, how fast one decision had changed his life, how another decision had slowly put it back together. Not perfectly, but truthfully. If you're still watching this story, take a moment right now. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter because they remind us we're not alone in our choices. And if this story touched you, leave a comment. What decision changed your life? Because sometimes all it takes is one moment, one pause, one choice, and everything changes.